Welcome, everybody, to the American Space Museum. I'm Marquette, and so glad you're with us to stay curious on this March 8th, which is International Women's Day. And we celebrate that today with a look at our women in space currently, as well as our Artemis women, that one of them will be the first woman on the moon here, hopefully in 3 or 4 or 5 years. But we thank Hyatt Place for sponsoring our Hyatt Place Studios here inside the American Space Museum in downtown Titusville. We're so glad that Hyatt Place wants to join up with our nonprofit and support some of our programs. We're going to do some programs at Hyatt Place, including April 16th, when we're going to celebrate the 50th anniversary of the dawn of the space shuttle era. Because in 1972 in April is when Congress approved the $5.5 billion. You're going to hear a lot about that, but we want to talk about today women in space to celebrate International Women's Day. And this year's campaign is Break the Bias, spotlights individual and collective biases against women that fuel gender inequality. And you're going to see selfies like this with Women X, Break the Bias, and we celebrate that today at the American Space Museum, as we, of course, are believe, of course, that women are equal and just as good as astronauts and anything out there in the world that you want to talk about. So we've got a nice little program to focus particularly on the 9 Artemis women. Some of them you know, some of you don't know. But one of them is going to become the most famous woman in the world someday when she walks on the moon, stepping off an Artemis a moon ship. But we want to talk about also tomorrow we've got a wonderful guest. This gentleman, Mr. Jim Adamson, twice a space shuttle participant, specialist on there. Here's Jim on STS-43, and his other mission, STS-28, was a top secret Department of Defense mission. So not many pictures of this, but there's Jim. I met him in November at the rocket reunion, and we can't wait to have a conversation with this gentleman. Not only an excellent astronaut, but he is one of the most important executives of the shuttle era, molding and shaping many of the ways that the shuttle did business with industry. So you're going to enjoy a conversation with Mr. Jim Adamson tomorrow. And yes, we're going to talk about rockin' mustaches. So we'll have some fun with him and look forward to that to help you stay curious. But we've got our Shuttles of March that we celebrate at the beginning of the month with Mr. Hugh Harris, the voice of NASA. Go back and look at I think it's March 3rd was when we had Hugh on to talk about the shuttles of the month. And we've got a launch today, STS-102. They're on March 8th, 2001. This is a very important mission because it was the first exchange of astronauts at the International Space Station 21 years ago. That's right, they swapped out these crews. On the bottom left is 2 Russians and the American, Bill Shepard. Krikalev is the one Russian on the left. I forget the other one's name. They were the first ones to occupy the International Space Station for about a 4 or 5 month tour. And on the right, we replaced them with the astronauts that went up. And I'll consult my shuttle scroll here as I give a shout out to Marty Winkle, my co-producer, and now our Streamlabs production studio engineer behind the scenes there of the computer. STS-102 had Weatherby was the pilot up there in the middle, seated to the right. That was his 5th of 6 missions. He was a record 5 times a commander. Also drummer, Weatherby was, of the astronaut band called Max Q. The pilot was Kelly. Andy Thomas went up, and Richards went up on his first flight, Paul Richards. They dropped off Jim Voss, Yusevich. They're on our far right in the orange pumpkin suits. The lady is Susan Helms on her 5th and last flight. She stayed as the second crew of the International Space Station Expedition 2. She then became the Lieutenant General of the Air Force and was over the Space Force, or the air, now what we call the Space Force Command, at Vandenberg for a while. So Shepard, when going up was Helms, UCF, and Voss, and coming down was Shepard, Krikalev, and Gazenko. And so very important, the first time that we exchanged crews at the space station, in Expedition 1 for Expedition 2. And there's the beautiful launch. What a gorgeous launch, not by somebody I know, though I know the Usiak brothers are watching, and maybe they took that, Tom or Mark Usiak in Lancaster, Pennsylvania. But we wanted to mention that of the shuttles of the month coming up there, and we are up to Expedition 66, and this was the second expedition launched 21 years ago. Of course, it being International Women's Day and striking the pose of solidarity with women today on the theme of this year's International Women's Day, Break the Bias. This has been going on since the 1920s or something. Formerly in 1970s is when the United Nations, I think, recognized it. But here we're looking at a woman who is in space today. All right, Wang Yang. All right, Wang Yang is the Chinese female occupant of their space station. It's called Tiangong. It's not an international space station, but she's up there with two men. This is her second trip to space. Okay, she was the second Chinese woman to go to space, and was on the first space station mission. But she's been up in orbit now for 130 days, a record for Chinese women, and she did the first spacewalk of a Chinese woman. There she is doing it. And she had a videotape announcement to the world to celebrate International Women's Day, and she said, quote, "I hope all girls with space dreams guard your vision of going to the sea of stars. One day, before you know it, you'll look up and see your dream is already within reach." And a woman that spoke that. She said that space has never changed its environment or lowered its threshold because of women, in that ample flight data show there's no significant differences in the abilities of either sex to adapt and work in space. How true that is, spoken from a Chinese tachyonaut. She said, "It is conceivable that more and more women will participate in manned space missions. I have a very important impact on the large-scale and long-term exploration of the space future," she said. Ladies, although our nationalities and ethnicities and occupations are different, women all over the world are making the world more vibrant and more harmonious and warmer with their own input, she said. And so, those are some pretty cool words, I think, from the Chinese tachyonaut up there. She'll be coming back in about a month, after a 6-month mission. This is a very important mission for the Chinese as they construct their space station. And I researched a little bit to see if our NASA astronaut, Kayla Barron, who you're going to see a little more about, had something to say or something about International Women's Day. And I'm sorry to say NASA didn't have a press release or anything that I could find. So I'll still be looking after our Stay Curious program. Here are our Expedition 66 astronauts that include 4 Americans, 2 Russians, and 1 German. And Kayla Barron's the second one from the right. And we will be paying close eye, like the whole world, on what's going to happen at our International Space Station as the Soviets, or the Russians, are poised to launch 3 more Russian cosmonauts to the space station around the middle of next month. Okay, and we're supposed to bring back 3 of these people, including the man on the far right, Mark Van Hay. And Van Hey is already he's on the borderline of setting a record of Americans in space, breaking Christina Cook's over 11 months. And he's scheduled to come back on a Russian Soyuz spacecraft. So what is happening with the war escalating between Ukraine and Russia and the whole world in a tense mode over this? Our international partners may show us the light of how to get along in space, as all of these astronauts have for the last 5 months. Route 66 is the shield there, of course, America's famous highway to celebrate the 66th mission to the space station, and the second one was launched on this date 21 years ago. Well, here is Kayla Barron, who is on the space station doing an experiment there, obviously having a lot of fun. Kayla is one of 18 Artemis astronauts, 9 of which are women. And we're going to quickly profile all those women of Artemis in a minute. There again, looking at the brotherhood and sisterhood up there, okay? So many times a woman is the only, is outnumbered. There she's outnumbered with 7 men, 6 men, I mean. 6 or 7 people up there. Help me count, Marty. Help me count. This is how international people should get along, and I want to just remind everybody of that. Here are our women of Artemis, all 9 of them. Who will be the first on the moon? Can you imagine that? They're not thinking about that. They're doing what they got to do to look at what's in front of them. 3 of these women have got space experience. Actually, 5. Let's see. I'm talking 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 of the 9 have got space experience. No, 6 of the 9 do, and the others are in line to get their space missions. So we've got Kayla Barron, Christina Cook is how you pronounce her name, Nicole Mann, Ann Mclean, Jessica Meer, Jasmine Mobelli is how you say her name, Kate Rubens, Jessica Watkins, and Stephanie Wilson. Only Mobelli, Watkins, and Mann have not been in space, all right? And Stephanie Wilson is the most experienced with 3 space shuttle flights. However, she's also the oldest of these women, 54 years old. So let's look at these women of Artemis. And again, just wrap your head around the fact that we're looking at one of the women who's going to set foot on the moon someday. And how exciting is that? Just not to be a woman, but it could be a woman of color, if it was Stephanie Wilson or Jessica Watkins. It could be a man of color, as a man and a woman go go back and repeat what has not been done in 50 years, a half a century, human beings walking on the moon. I think it's pretty exciting. Let's look at these women real quick. Kayla Barron, Barraron. Her maiden name was Sachs. She is married. She's a Navy submariner. She is the first female, one of the first, not the first. She's one of the first female officers of a submarine, which was a big deal in 2010 when she was commissioned as an officer. She's been awarded the Navy and Marine Corps Commendation Medal and the Navy and Marine Corps Achievement Medal. So she no doubt worked with the Marines, and she was born in Richland, Washington, the state of Washington, and she's 34 years old. She's up in space right now, and she will be coming back on the Crew Dragon 3. I think it's called Endeavour that took her up there, and Crew Dragon 4 will be poised to launch in mid-April. Next, our Artemis astronaut ladies here on International Women's Day include this one. And Marty, I want you to, who do you think will be the one? Well, my money's pretty much on Christina Cook, K-O-C-H, but it's pronounced Cook. She's married. She grew up in Grand Rapids, Michigan, was selected as an astronaut 9 years ago in 2013. She studied electrical engineering at North Carolina State University, got a PhD in engineering there, but she very interestingly became a research associate in the United States Antarctic program for 3 years, and this included a year-long stay with a winter over at the Edmondson Scott South Pole Station and a season at Palmer Station. So she spent 2 tours of duty in Antarctica. Now, is that as hostile a place on Earth as you could get besides going to the moon? I think this experience for her, plus her 328 days on her one space flight, 11 months up there, and 6 spacewalks she's done, including 3 with another woman we're going to talk about, Jessica Meer. She definitely, in my opinion, is the #1 woman that could be the first one to walk on the moon. Christina Cook. Another one that's a good candidate is this Ann Mclean. Ann's 42 years old. By the way, Christina's 43. So, 2, 3, or 4 years, they're still going to be a peak performance level. Ann Mclean's an Army woman. She was her hometown is Spokane, Washington. She stays buff by enjoying weightlifting and rugby. She was involved in some Operation Iraq Freedom work over there. She's a senior Army aviator. She has 20 different rotary and fixed-wing aircraft she's rated with. Marty, she's rated on the Black Hawk helicopter, all of the main helicopters. A true helicopter pilot, which that is what landing on the moon is all about, having a helicopter pilot. So that really puts her up there, I think. She's did 2 spacewalks. She was on Expedition 58 and 59, and she has got 204 days in space, does Ann Mclean. Again, celebrating International Women's Day and the women of Artemis. 9 of them are the 18 Artemis astronauts that will be going to the moon. If they're not the first, they will certainly be in line to walk on the moon. Nicole Mann's nickname is Duke, and she is a commissioned 2nd lieutenant in the Marine Corps, and studied at the U.S. Naval Academy with a specialty in fluid mechanics from Stanford University. She was one of 8 members of the 21st NASA astronaut class in 2013. She has served as a T-38 safety and training officer. Those are the personal jets of the astronauts. And she's training for a crewed flight on SpaceX 5. So we're up to 3 Dragon crews, and the 4th will be coming up, and she will be on the 5th one afterwards. So she will get some experience in space, will Nicole Mann at age 44. Another top 3 with Jessica Cook, Christina Cook, and Annie Mclean is Jessica Meer here. And I don't mean that pun, Meer here. She was born in Caribou, Maine. She, a Bachelor of Arts from Brown University in Science, and she's an oceanographer from Scripps Institution. Has done a lot of NEMO, which is the NASA Extreme Environment Mission operations down at Key Largo, where they go in under the water, simulating they're in space. She has extensive capsule communication experience, serving as a lead Capcom on STS-47. She was on Expedition 61 and 62. Jessica Meer has 205 days in space. She was up there with Christina Cook. They did the first all-women spacewalks. They did 3 of them. And so she and Christina are pretty well bonded as being crewmates on her 205 days. And if not a first one to walk on the moon, she would be an excellent astronaut to be at our lunar outpost gateway with all that communication. Jessica Meer here on International Women's Day. Jasmine Mobelli is how you say her name. Moghbeli. Jasmine Mobelli is 38 years old. She's married. She's from Baldwin, New York. She was born in West Germany. She is a URA Marine, all right, and with a Bachelor of Science degree from Massachusetts Institute of Technology. And then she graduated from the U.S. Naval Test Pilot School at, of course, Paxton River, Maryland, where all of the Navy astronauts were trained. Again, second lieutenant with the Marines. Marty, she's also a Marine light attack helicopter pilot, very experienced with helicopters. Again, something that translates well into landing on the moon. And she is scheduled, she's not in rotation for any flight yet that I could find. But she's been an astronaut since 2017 and no doubt will be put in one of those upcoming missions, we hope. Again, Mobelli, Jasmine Mobelli to look at as the first woman in the moon. Now, Kate Rubens, she must have been in space when she missed the photo call for everybody to have their picture made at the Houston Operations Center there, because Kate has spent 205 days in space on one space flight. She's 43. She grew up in Napa, California, got her degrees in molecular biology from the University of California at San Diego, and she studied immunology at Stanford. She did her undergraduate research on HIV, okay, and so that had to be pretty important and groundbreaking at the time. She's very involved in everything that has to do with viruses, infections, and so forth. So she would be a good one to be along though she's not a medical doctor. She was on Expedition 48 and 49 in 2016. She rode to space a Soyuz spacecraft, okay, as did, of course, Christina Koch and she has got, she's got two spacewalks, all right, for over 12 hours. So she's a very experienced astronaut, Kate Rubens. And our next to last of 9 Artemis women, that will be, one of them will be the first woman on the moon. 3 of them got names Jessica, so they got that going for them. As Jessica Watkins here is age 33. She is scheduled to go to space on the Crew Dragon 4. That's the next flight going up there. So we will be hearing a lot about Jessica. Grew up in Lafayette, Colorado. Jessica Watkins, she also enjoys rugby. I love the hobbies of these girls, but she and Mclean are probably kicking that rugby ball around a little bit. She is a Bachelor of Science in Geology and Geological Studies from Stanford. Okay, we need geologists on the moon, so there's one right there. And she has really done research on Mars soil and worked with the Phoenix Lander mission in the early 2000s. She has worked on the Mars Desert Research Station. She's an aquanaut with the Nemo that underwater there at Key Largo, and she's currently assigned a flight. So Jessica Watkins, there you go. Boy, she was on the Rugby National Championship of Women in Stanford. That is, you don't mess with her, Marty. Okay. And finally, we've talked about this beautiful lady before, of course, because she had 3 wonderful missions. Stephanie Wilson. Stephanie Wilson is one of the oldest of the Artemis astronauts at age 55. Joe Acaba is age 53, and Scott Tingle is 55. So there's 3 of the 18 Artemis astronauts are in their 50s. That don't matter. She's young at heart, I'm sure. She has spent, how many days did she spend in 15 days? No, she was up there longer than that. Her STS 103, 120, and 121 were her missions. So she's got about 30-some days in space. I didn't write down the exact number there. 42 days, I slighted her. 42 days in space on 3 shuttle missions That experience alone, I think, would make her an excellent commander of the Gateway Outpost. She and Joe Acaba can run the thing as their shuttle and cruise to the moon and back, which is the idea, as we understand it. We're going to launch an Orion spacecraft to a Gateway space station. It's going to be between the Earth and the moon, and then attached to that will be the SpaceX giant starship that they'll go into that and go to the moon from the Gateway. At least that's the way I understand it, Marty. And you can't. They're still delineating all of that, as the Starship has yet to fly, the Orion spacecraft has yet to fly, but we got some astronauts that are ready to fly. So how do you like that? Our Women of Artemis for International Women's Day. Again, we're with the theme, no gender bias, and you'll see that today. You've seen it all day on probably Twitter and other things. No gender bias, and these women, as we know, NASA has once those shuttle astronauts broke the gender bias, we find that women astronauts probably outperform the men in many ways. I'm saying that from talking to some of the women astronauts. And, of course, one of our favorite, Eileen Collins, noted for the most accurate landings on the shuttle runway and so forth. So there's our Women of Artemis. Who will be the first, Marty? We got 9. We ought to take a bet here around here as we say hello to Christopher Mick in Ophelia. Hi, Ophelia. Christopher Mick's in Wisconsin. Ophelia's in Paris, or Normandy, France. We thank everybody for watching on YouTube, Twitch, Spotify, and of course, Facebook Live that most of you are. Dave Stange, Dave Stange, Stange. I was told by Larry Pushkar that they're friends, and Larry's on here a lot. He's on a plane to Maui and we'll watch it later, Dave Stange said, like Ange at the end. Pamela Shivik, hope you enjoyed our women, Artemis women today, and share that with your group of people that you're always educating. Hello, Jean Wright. She's one of the women of the shuttle, being a sister. Carla Kristen, hello to you. Madeline Vanderlaan, Mark and Tom Usiak, we're glad that you guys are watching. And Jason Crisafoli, glad that you're watching. So give a shout out to all of the women that you know out there that are in jobs of importance, and hope that more women strive to be like them. So, Marty, we're going to go out with reminding everybody that tomorrow we can't wait for the conversation with Jim Adamson. I've talked to him several times on the phone, communicated with him, email. This is going to be a wonderful show that we're going to have with a true pioneer of how management evolved in the space shuttle. And Mr. Adamson's not only a two-time astronaut in the early shuttle era, but he also helped mold the administrative side and was the first CEO of the United Space Alliance that was the umbrella organization the last 10 years. COO, Marty says. The coup. He was president, too, I believe. I'm not sure what the difference is between an executive and an operating officer. The operating officer probably does everything for the executive, huh, Marty? So, well, we're going to enjoy a great conversation with Jim Adamson here to help you stay curious tomorrow. So tell your friends to watch it. So we thank Hyatt Place, the Hyatt Studios that we're inside of here, broadcasting from the American Space Museum in downtown Titusville. So, Marty, thank you for everything, running the board real good, and we will see everyone again tomorrow with a wonderful astronaut, Jim Adamson. Until then, I'm Mark Marquette saying, come to our museum, watch, stay curious, and bridge the space between us.